Yeah.
She's on.
Hello. Hi, Jamie. Can you say hi?
You see.
Do I have to?
Yeah, you're our volume test.
Yeah, you just need to let us know. So Jamie has a couple of rules that she wanted me to tell to everybody. So essentially, it's really important, number one, that you speak up and enunciate so that she can hear you, and also later when she's doing the minutes, that she can keep track of what's going on.
I see.
Number two, if you are going to make a motion, then say your name loudly so that she can catch that. And when we're voting, make sure you say your name, so that she can catch
She
that.
can't see us, yeah.
Well, she can see you, but what happened in the past with Zoom was that you logged in under your name, and so you were listed under your name as the speaker. Now, because we're all sharing essentially my login, everybody's on.
Got it.
There's no change in
So
personnel.
should we check our mics?
I don't know that it'll work. I don't know.
Jamie, can you hear?
Yeah,
my-
no, the mics don't work.
The mics, you know,
No.
they work for the speakers to the back of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not, well, they're not for that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. For this purpose, the speaker, not the speaker, but the microphone is up there right above the TV, as well as the camera, so it's
Got
got
it.
webcam, so let's pretend we're looking at the computer.
Very fancy.
What I have.
Yeah, it is, we would like, in the conversation today, we talked about maybe getting a better quality, apparatus set up, you know, for these types of meetings in the future. But today, that's.
Yeah, hybrid needs.
Yes.
some work. It's
So-
tricky.
If it's not a conflict, and I do have pro bono, I mean, I do that for a living, so.
The
Like
public
that Zoom
are all
If
conference
if I
guys,
don't
deputy
charge
chair.
anything, can I give
Advice?
advice?
Free advice is,
Because you can actually have these mics go through the same exact system and go through there simultaneously. And it's not-
And at the same time.
Yes.
And hybrid also works better if you have two screens.
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hybrid is tricky technologically.
We have done, this will be, I think, the third hybrid meeting we've done here, at the Op Center. So it's a lot better here than it is in Village Hall, where it's nearly impossible.
Oh, we did one of them
That
too.
was awful. So it's a lot better here. Say that much.
We're ready?
We are ready.
We are ready.
Let's do
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the September 13th, 2022 zoning board of appeals regular monthly meeting for the village of Ossining. Note that this is a public hearing that is quasi judicial. This is a reminder of the rules of people in person, since we have not been here for a while. We ask that no one speaks in the audience. If you have something you need to say or discuss, we ask that you please take it outside the room and down the hall toward the front door. If you talk outside of the conference room doors, your conversation will echo back into the room. When you come up before the board, you must provide your name and your address. Remember that you are addressing the board. You are not speaking to the applicant or their representative. Applicants and representatives, please remember that you are addressing the board. We're also using a hybrid format, therefore the public will continue to have the opportunity to see and hear the meeting live through Zoom and provide comments during the appropriate time. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online via Zoom may use the raise hand feature in the appropriate time. If you would like to make a comment, the feature is located at the bottom of the screen. Those attending via telephone can press *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you have pressed *9 and will unmute those waiting one at a time so that you can speak. Comments can also be emailed during the public hearing to Planning Director Jaime Martinez at jmartinez, MARTINEZ, @villageofaustining.org. The meeting will be recorded and a transcript of the meeting will be available at a later date. There are some ground rules. In order to keep the meeting orderly and ensure we get a clear recording, please follow these ground rules. When you're given access to speak, please state your name and address. If you are speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject at hand. And if any speaker is inappropriate, they will immediately be cut off and access removed. So welcome to the meeting, and we will start by doing our roll call.
Michael Small,
Present.
Marlene Cheatham,
Present.
Bob Dwyer,
Present.
Olga Montez,
Present.
Kyle Laperousek,
Present.
and George Bailey is no longer.
He's an alternate.
He's an alternate? Okay, all right, then he's an alternate. I wasn't sure. All right, George Bailey is an alternate and it's not.
Also with us tonight is Joseph Agostinelli, our building inspector, Jaime Martinez, our planning director. And with us online is Jamie Kane, our board secretary, and Linda Whitehead, our land use attorney. So with that, we can get started.
First on the agenda is the minutes.
Approval of the minutes from the July 12th, 2022 meeting. I was not present for that meeting.
Right.
So that meeting was actually run by Mr. Dorado. And
Has everybody had an opportunity to read minutes? Can I get a motion? You want?
for those who were present, is there a motion to accept the minutes with any necessary corrections?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, so moved by
Kyle.
Kyle and seconded by Michael Spall. If all those in favor or all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Yes. Motion carried. The minutes for the July 12th, 2022 meeting minutes have been approved. Next on our agenda is new business of the board, ZBA 16-2022, 37 Ferris Place. Charles Bergen is the owner. Is there anyone on, I guess, online?
Yes, the applicant is here. Let me give you a quick rundown of the application, and then I'll bring them in. So the applicant is seeking an area variance in relation to the creation of a new driveway on the southern side of the property that exceeds the permitted slope of 10% by proposing a slope of 14.5%. And that is it. So I will bring them in. So first, we're going to bring in Charles Burghard, and then we're going to bring in Liz Ann Fry, the architect. As well. Liz, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Great. So as Jaime had mentioned, we are looking to extend an existing driveway, basically to match the driveway of the adjacent property owner and the driveway on the opposite side. There is currently a small parking slip at the top, and then a grass slope leading to the backyard.
Share your screen.
Ah,
Like me to share for you.
great. Okay, 1 second, please. And here we go. Can you see it now?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Sorry about that. Essentially, as I had said, we have an existing parking slip at the top of off the street, and we are looking to create a driveway along the side of the house to allow access to the rear and to allow for a second car. We are looking to match basically the grade of the adjacent driveway, which is 2 to 4 feet away from the proposed driveway. And the grades would basically, for the most part, match. Once we get to the bottom, what we would like to do is just then have a grass slope. Right now, it's fairly steep. We just want to extend the grass slope into the yard so that a wheelbarrow walking access is available. So essentially, everything beyond this darkened area is just a grass slope with a short curb just to ease the slope and also to protect an existing tree. And that's basically the project. There is a huge stump from a old tree that has been taken down. It's awfully rotten, so it's got to have been 15 years-ish when the tree was taken down, but right now it creates a big hump on the corner here. So the idea is to take out the stump and smooth out the grade. And that's pretty much what the project's about.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah. Joe,
Can you say your name first?
so Bob DeRio. I was gonna ask Joe, I noticed that in the staff report, one of the questions that the staff had was whether they were going to need an excavation and fill permit for this. Is that still gonna be required?
No.
No, so that was, okay.
They made revisions to the
The
application.
revisions eliminated that. Great, I have no more.
Correct.
Yeah, Liz, this is Mike Spall, board member. This is a downhill driveway to the left of the residence, right?
Correct.
And is the lot 57 that you mentioned, is that a shared driveway that's also downhill?
It is not, well, there is, the proposed driveway that we're putting in has to be 2 feet from the property line, and we're abiding by that dimension. And therefore, there is approximately 4 feet between the two driveways with a grass patch, planting patch in between them. And there is a driveway on the other side as well.
And the driveway on the other side, is that also a downhill driveway off of Ferris?
Correct.
That's all I have.
Are there any other questions from the board? Kyle?
This is Kyle Aberzig. So the 2 feet required setback in that zone, that's what it is, right? 2
Yes.
feet. And the max impervious surface coverage is,
40%.
40%.
Yeah.
It's only, and it's gonna be 28.8.
great.
Are there any other questions from the board? If there are no other questions from the board, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Bob DeRio.
Seconded, Olga. If there's no objection, the public hearing will be open. No objection from the board, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this matter?
No, there's nobody in the audience. We've not received any letters, and I will check my emails. Yep. There are no hands raised.
No one's
So
online.
that's it. Nobody online, no emails, no letters.
Then may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Bob.
Seconded, Olga. Okay, if there's no objection, the public hearing is now closed,
Thank you.
and we will go through the area variance test.
Steps.
So, the first is,
Well, before, so it's the driveway slope and the,
just driveway.
That's it.
and the variance is 4.5%?
Yes, it's
Yes.
14.5. It's proposed to be 14.5%. It's allowed to be 10, so the variance request is for 4.5%.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, the board shall consider, one, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of the area variance.
I would say no, pending there's no drainage issues right at the edge there, which, that's not, I mean, they're within their 2 feet, but, when you have two slope driveways next to each other, it's just being cognizant of how the drainage is to be taken care of. So
Yeah.
still no.
Yeah, I would say no as well. I completely agree.
I would also agree with Kyle too. I mean, some will be bad engineering. And obviously, it looks like they've got professional fans here, so I assume that the drainage is correct.
And I would also say that they're looking at the neighborhood and the existing driveways next to them, so they're looking to match driveways, which would also work in the setback.
I agree. I have no cause for concern on either side.
Yeah, and I would only add that they're adding 265 feet of impervious surface. So it doesn't even meet the criteria of, being a slip or anything else. So it's minimal amount of impervious.
Two is whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
Lot 55 is next door, doesn't look like there's enough room to put a driveway on the other side of the house. I would say no, because there's no possible benefit from that, some other method.
I would say yes, because you could dig straight in to get another car in there, but that would probably be very expensive to engineers. So I'd say yes, but I don't think it's feasible financially.
Right, so again, the question you have to say, is it feasible? Is there another method that's feasible? So as you just said, it's really not feasible.
I don't really know, but yeah.
It would also create a lot more disturbance and not be consistent.
With the neighborhood and all the other.
Okay,
So then, of course, so is it feasible? I would say no, but from the way things look right now, the answer would be no. Are there other methods that we may look, that could be looked at that would cause other issues within the neighborhood? Yes, but I think what they're looking at now is probably the least, the means of least resistance.
Yeah, I agree with Marlene. This is the least invasive, least expensive approach to solving this problem.
Agreed. I believe this is the best option.
I just want to quickly amend something here, and I said it was only going to increase by 265 feet and square feet. That's not accurate. I'm just trying to read the number here, but it's a little bit more than that. It's more like 700 or 800 square feet. Liz, could you just state how much more impervious surface, square footage wise, it is?
Essentially, we are adding, 1 second, please.
It wouldn't be the wood deck because that doesn't count as impervious surface.
That's are we talking about the property or just the driveway?
The increase.
increase in the driveway.
Well, essentially, we're just adding basically 6.2, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, but right, approximately 7%.
Yeah, but not
Additional.
the
No,
actual
we want the
square
square
footage.
footage.
The square footage.
Oh, the square footage. Just 1 second, please. We are adding, we're adding approximately 700 square feet. I'm sorry, here we go. It's 611 square feet, exactly,
Okay.
right here on the side.
No, the criteria for slip, but it's more than less. Okay, so
Okay. The next is whether the requested area variance is substantial.
Yes, because 4.5% is almost half of 10% increase, but I don't think it's. I mean, there is no other feasible way, so, well, it's substantial, I don't think it's determined.
I agree with Kyle.
And again, you have to look at it not just in terms of numbers, but in the totality of the circumstances and the impacts. So that substantiality doesn't create, it's just a number, it doesn't create a greater impact.
Right.
So the answer would be,
That in by number, yes, it's substantial, but in terms of the overall,
it's.
Yeah,
it's
you know.
not.
Substantial without a negative impact.
right? Next, the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood.
No, it's an improvement because it's going to match the other driveway. And so aesthetically, it's more pleasing. Oh, I'm still not.
Is there any? other-
Jamie can see us, so hopefully she can.
It's, well, it's the, when she's reading the transcript, it's the tough part, because they're trying to
I get it. I'm sorry.
interpret it all.
Any other comments?
And again, here it's only adding 611 square feet. And finally, the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
You know, before you, so final that I would like to keep in mind that this property really didn't have 2 parking spaces, and now it can fit 2 cars on the property, which is in conformance with part of the code. The slope itself isn't a slope they created, it's a natural slope. So, you know, you could sort of say, well, they want to have parking on their property, but they're also supposed to have parking on their property. Right, they can now provide.
And there was no mention of them increasing the capacity, the number of occupants in the house or anything of that sort.
No.
To do this.
No.
This
No.
is just creating a
Yeah.
parking.
And it gets a car off the street. And, yeah.
There's not a basement rental here or anything of that sort.
It is self-created because they bought a car. Didn't have.
Well, I don't think that really makes
But
it
it doesn't
self-created.
matter that it's self-created because, and this is one of the questions that, it doesn't affect whether we,
But I don't think that necessarily makes it self-created that they want, they're required actually to have 2 off-street parking spaces.
They're putting it into, they're bringing it into compliance. So,
Right, and the slope is a natural slope. It-
Right.
And that's what's really creating the need for the variance is the existence of the slope.
Okay, I know 15.
Yeah, and the zoning code actually indicates that when you can provide the off-street parking, you're supposed to. In this case, they have the ability to do that with just this variance. So it's the importance is creating the necessary off-street parking.
okay,
Okay, that's all 5. So now you have to just undertake the balancing and make a determination based on the information, the 5 factors.
So given the information that we have before us and going through the 5 factors, may I have a motion to approve the area variance?
so moved. Bob.
Second, Kyle.
So the variance of 4.5% for driveway slope,
You have to vote.
a roll call vote.
Michael Spall,
Sorry, yes.
Marlene Cheatham,
Yes.
Bob Dial,
Yes,
Old Montez.
Yes.
Kyle Aberrizic.
Aye.
it's unanimous.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. So motion carried. And to the applicant and to the attorney, thank you and have a great night and happy digging.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda.
One.
um,
Yeah, she's doing the,
61 Dale Avenue.
Mhm. So for 61 Dale Avenue. let me just-
Alba Zhina is the owner.
Yeah, Alba Zhina. So let me get a little rundown of what the project is. It's the applicant is seeking area variances in order to construct masonry and stone stairs on the side yard. So not that. And we'll bring them in. So we have the applicants, the architect here, Michael Bevino.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry, sir.
The architect, Michael Bevino, is here, as well as Alba Zhina, the owner. And they're promoting the family.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Bevino. My architecture firm is Named Architecture. We're located in Ossining at 6 Americo Circle, actually right around the corner from 67 Dale. Just share. I'm going to start with Google Earth. So this is 67 Dale Avenue right here. As you can see, it is an undersized sort of narrow lot for the district.
It's 61 Dale.
We have 61 Dale.
Sorry, 61 Dale, my apologies. The property line goes from pretty much the edge of the neighbor to the left to where you see these bushes on the right. We're seeking a variance to build a stair in sort of this right-hand side yard setback. It's a two-family property, and the only access currently to the home in the rear is down this very steep driveway, which is adequate for a car to kind of maneuver down, but during the winter months, becomes quite slippery and treacherous to traverse. So let me just share the site plan.
No,
No,
there is a stairwell in progress, but it was never completed.
Hello? Am I allowed to speak or?
Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you.
So taking a look at the site plan, here's the existing home at the front.
Michael, if you could speak up.
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the location of the home at the front of the property and the second one at the rear. On the left-hand side is the driveway, the existing driveway headed down into the rear of the property. And then on the right-hand side is where the proposed stair is. So we're requesting a variance from the required 8-foot side yard setback, as well as the combined setback of 20 feet. Just zoom out and show some pictures. So Alba had started constructing the stair before realizing that they needed a permit for it. It's a little glitchy. So you can see the stair is sort of partially constructed on that right-hand side. It's planned to be constructed out of CMU and bluestone pavers. Sorry, this is so jumpy. The stair will only add about 99 square feet worth of impervious surface. The existing impervious surface is non-compliant, but it's a de minimis amount of additional area. Anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions from the board?
I just want to be clear. So what we're saying about, what we're saying here, in the impervious coverage, is supposed to have 40%. It's already, the existing is 45.6%. And we needed a variance of basically 2.7 feet, which would make the impervious coverage 47.4%. Is that what we're looking for here?
That's correct. It's
Okay, what are the other two? The other two,
Side yard.
side yard,
Is 2.1%.
right?
Both side yards is 1.2,
2.1 feet.
2.1 feet, 1.27.
And you're supposed to have
And then
eight.
7.4 impervious coverage.
Got it. Okay. No more questions.
Yeah, Michael, this is Mike Spall. I was wondering, the purpose of the stairway on the right-hand side is being built out of concrete materials. Is that for egress and entrance by the upstairs tenant?
It's a convenience stair, just to access the rear of the property.
So it is not a sole way of that tenant. Need that applied.
So just to clarify, it's the second unit is actually in the back.
The
In
separate
a
structure.
separate structure, so it's not the upstairs, it's in the back. So as he was explaining, the only way to access it right now is to walk down the steep driveway if you're not driving.
Right.
So the idea of the stair was to provide access to that rear structure for someone walking.
If I can, you can see here's the building.
Right.
This is the second, unit in the house back here. And so, as you mentioned earlier on, the only way to get into that second property is to walk down this driveway, which doesn't have steps. And, in the colder months when it gets icy, it can get a little more dangerous. And so therefore, they are trying to add separate set of steps here so that somebody can walk to that back.
One thing I just want to mention is that there's a number of other properties sort of on that northwest side of Dale Avenue that have stairs constructed in their side yard setback, essentially to address the same problem.
There's no indoor, this is OVO, there's no indoor access to that second structure? They're not connected, the two buildings?
No.
Alba, you're on mute, so if you wanted to speak, you can take yourself off mute.
Only
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, there's no other way to get to the rear house. Actually, the only way is through the main house, through the basement, going through the back door. But for a tenant that lives on the back, it will not be convenient. Yes, but the only way for the tenant to get to the rear house is through the driveway, yes. Created an alternate way for them to enter, get to the back of the house. Yeah, the tenant that lives right there actually has, for the winter months, she has kind of a board where she gets on and it slides down the driveway. And it's very unsafe for her. Yeah, we actually.
Right, so that 1.27 feet proposed for total both sides is
Right, the driveway is treated separately for setback, it's not
Right.
considered part of the structure.
So actually, the minimum is 20 feet, the existing is 20.8. The proposed is 18.7 feet. That was my question, because it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they need.
Yeah, can you
both
go
sides.
back to the site plan maybe?
Yes.
Unless the change is different, she went down.
So, this is OVO, so the driveway is not wide enough to turn part of it into stairs. Is that correct? It's too narrow, only enough for the car. So they have to build them on the other side of the house.
Plus, if my memory serves me correctly, the existing was on the left-hand side of the property, the first building. I believe it was wooden stairs.
All right. So that's set up here.
So we'll walk up this side, walk upstairs, go up there.
Yeah. So
Well, we,
they're gonna be point
point
two
two on one
feet
side.
away from one side.
Right.
And
So the
so,
total of both is, we don't know the
We
setback.
don't know,
That-
we've gotta meet that setback.
let's take a survey. Yeah,
Sorry, we're just trying to make sure we have the variances right.
Sure.
I think he has it
Yeah,
down there. It's 18.5.
is that to
From
the
the
deck or that,
That's
that's
to
to
the
the
house.
house?
What's in the house?
not from the deck. The deck would count for this purpose.
We need to know the setback to the deck.
I can give you that dimension right now if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. You wanna go ahead and, share your screen? So we know how to do it.
Sure.
No, like, we just want to make sure we have the numbers correct.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, that's,
Yeah, the deck is within the setback.
no, the deck complies, it looks like it's. So the 12-foot setback line was just, so it's maybe like 13 feet or.
Yeah.
But the question is where are you getting the dimension from? Are you scaling it or is this off of the survey?
No, this is a scaled drawing from the
site
survey.
plan scale
It's a, yeah.
So at the end, when they finish the construction, they would have to give me an as-built survey, and if the scaling is inaccurate.
Yeah, you just have to get an update to your variance application.
Is so, is the 13.2 to the deck?
Yeah.
So 13.2 plus, we're gonna have 0.2,
We're talking about 13.4.
13.4 required is 20.
It's actually.
So plus
20.
0.2. So that's 34 total out of a required 20.
Yeah.
All right,
that's
so
the
that's
season.
6.6. So the combined variance 6.6. And then the single. Does he need a single?
Yes, because he's down to 0.2. It was already non-conforming at 3.5.
That's correct.
So that's a 7.8. Right, so you require jump.
The 8 that required. And then 7.8 available, so 0.2.
7.8.
7.8
variance.
Single yard, and then.
And
the-
both of those are already existing non-conforming. So these numbers are the new non-conformities, not the increase.
Yeah.
But the total, recognizing that the
Yes.
increase is 3.3 on the side with the stair.
So the one side yard is now gonna be 3.3.
No, it's gonna be 0.2.
Yeah.
It's 3.5 existing.
All right, because here they have existing as 2.3, so you're saying that that's 3.5?
That's what this is showing.
That's correct. The house is 3.7 from the side yard, and then they built a 3.5 foot wide stair.
Oh, I thought it was 3.5 now when they built a 3.3 stair. Wow. This is too, okay. Did the survey say 3.7 now?
Yeah, let
Alright.
me,
Want to make sure we have the right numbers.
sure. No, I appreciate that. Let me just pull up the survey.
Or what do you have, what did you have on the chart? Go back to that.
On our drawing. We're just looking at the same drawing. Let me just see if it's noted on the survey. We're using the actual CAD from the surveyor, so. Yeah, 3.7, you can see it on,
Oh, okay. So the existing is,
Well.
now my other number was
He
wrong.
put 2.3 because of the.
Oh, because of the other accessory. Oh, okay.
That's right.
Oh, so that changes the total too. Right, Joe?
Well, if he's going
But
down.
it's an
to-
accessory structure.
Yeah, it's accessory structure, so really it goes from the main structure.
Okay,
Because accessory has a different setback.
okay. So, but again,
Wait,
it's-
wait a
it
second.
does,
So
it
you're
does,
saying that the second house, it's a house, it's not like a.
Still
accessory-
considered
still
an accessory
considered an
structure.
accessory structure? Okay,
okay, so it doesn't, so
the
we,
combined should be the same.
well, except I was using 3.5, not 3.7.
But,
Well, 3.5 is the size of the stairs, he's leaving 0.2 at the end.
Right,
So
okay,
the balance should still be the same,
Right.
combined,
right.
and the one side should still be the same.
Yeah.
So
the issue.
still 7.8 request.
The issue is what the existing
It's
is.
it's the side of the deck, so he's proposing 0.2, so he's gonna need the variance.
For
It's
7.8.
That's 7.8 for 1 yard and
And
6.6
6.6
for a total of both.
Yeah. And I just want to go back real fast and get the impervious number. So 40 is allowed, and then you're requesting 44.5, is that correct? Did I remember that correctly?
So the
Mm.
appropriate
45.6.
It is allowed, 45.6 is existing. Yeah,
It's 7.4.
down.
And again, all of these are already non-conforming, they're increasing them.
Yeah, it was 45.6 before, now it's gonna be 47.4.
Correct.
Yeah.
correct.
So the variance. so
The increase is less than 2%.
So the increase for the one side yard is 7.8.
It's about 100 square feet increase in impervious.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers that you're looking at for the variance don't recognize that it's already non-conforming.
Right.
It's giving you the total.
Got it.
Okay, so the variance request is 7.4%.
Right.
Of impervious. Okay. I have the numbers here, so.
Right, so 7.8%, 7.8 feet for the one side yard, 18.73.
No, 6.6,
So
6.6 for the total of both
So
sides.
combined. So to explain that, the property on the other side is it's beyond the setback requirement for a single family, so that's why it's a smaller variance than we're combined. Obviously.
So 6.6
6.6.
and then 47,
7.4%
7.4% variance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Above.
And if you want to know the increases from the existing non-conformity, we can do that.
I don't think they want any more.
Don't confuse me.
Sometimes it's the more relevant number.
Yeah.
very good.
Are there any other questions from the board? If there are no other questions from the board, may I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved,
Second.
If there's no objection, then the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone to speak on this particular project? Yes, please. State your name and your address.
Sure. Is this on? It doesn't matter.
Not really, you can speak up. so we
Okay.
can Hear you on the record.
I didn't know if it was connected.
No, it's not.
My name is Pamela Bucko. I live at 65 Dale Avenue. The condo is right alongside 61. I've lived there for 25 years.
And the people that were previously living in the 61 location up front and the bungalow in the back, I've known them all 25 years that I've been there. The tenant in the back has only been there 22 years that I might have that off by year, but that doesn't matter. A couple of things I noticed that were said. Well, let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here because I have concerns. You have actually pictures. I brought pictures, but you already have pictures of, we have a retaining wall that runs alongside the property of 61. It holds up our driveway. And 18 years ago, we put that new stone wall up, which is a $25,000 wall. And we put drainage in there. When
Which
my
side-
concern
can you
is-
tell me, ma'am, is it on the left or on the right?
No, the right.
looking at the front of the house, I'm on the right.
So adjacent to the
These are the
stairs.
condos, and this is the
Correct.
hall.
On the same side that the stairs are being built.
Okay.
Pull that up. See?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you can see the wall in the one picture you have, the colored picture.
You can also see it on Google Maps. as well.
Yeah.
One.
Are we going there?
Yeah.
You can continue while
Oh,
we're
okay.
back here.
Okay, so my concern is, seeing the structure so close to our property line and all the dirt being thrown up there when when the construction was happening with the building of the stairs. Now we have this big huge wall of dirt. And it's half on our property, half on his property. And we also have put in there a lot of pipes for drainage so that nothing would interfere with this tall, huge wall. You can see that whole white going down there. That's the wall and our cars are on the other side of it. Our big concern is, I'm gonna say it the only way, I don't know how to say it technically like you do, but our big concern is messing with the earth there. And it's gonna cause some kind of shift, and that's why I was concerned about what the architect found when he examined, what was going on. It's very close. And the tenant in the back told me that she was told it was being built because there's no place on the driveway side of the house to build stairs. But there is, because he has stairs there already with a side entrance to the two-story house. He has a front entrance to the two-story house that goes upstairs and a side entrance to the two-story house that goes to the first floor. So why can't he just put stairs on that side? I don't know.
Ma'am, can I
the
just
rules.
ask you a real quick question? Because I just want to make sure,
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that I'm capturing, like.
Okay,
this
what
question
I'm
be
saying,
captured
yeah.
Properly. So they are proposing to put a stairwell into the first dwelling unit down to this area. And the retaining wall is on the survey and it's here.
And
you
how
get
is
on the-
that gonna help that back bungalow when the entrance to get in it is on the lower side of that structure?
I want to clarify because they are not proposing to put anything near the retaining wall.
They are up on the top.
So is there another retaining wall up here? that-
Well, it's not a wall, that's our problem. It's almost level with his property now, but he's throwing all this dirt up here and now it's a big hill.
But I guess the question is, will the dirt be removed, like,
Yeah, and so I just want to clarify what you're asking, because you talked about a retaining wall and moving dirt around a retaining wall. The applicant's not proposing to doing that. Now you're saying that the applicant is currently throwing dirt on your property.
There's dirt going right before the retaining wall starts, and there's railroad ties there. And then the retaining wall starts, and there's more dirt being thrown.
So there was some pictures.
We have
Let's see what the picture.
We do.
So are you asking for them to clean up the pile of?
I
dirt?
am asking that if you get a building permit, this is my understanding, you get a building permit when you start messing with the earth and building something, so that an architect comes in and makes sure that everything's kosher. So you're not gonna shift the whole structure of the wall.
I understand that she is concerned over the structure of the entire driveway, both her retaining wall and the part before it
Yeah.
starts.
Correct.
And whether or not the earth will shift with all what the disturbing that they're doing. But I guess.
So well, to keep in mind, so the current stairwell is about 3.5 feet, which means that about 4 inches away from where you see that is where the property line ends. It does look like the applicant has a tube running along that side. But if
Well,
there's
he just
anything
put that
happening
there.
here, if there's anything happening over here, that's not their property, that's your property.
Can you get the picture that you have looking from the top of those stairs he built down? There you go,
Yeah.
that structure. You see all that mess on the side? That was never there. That's all new earth, which is now growing, weeds,
Okay,
okay?
so we can add, the board can add as condition that they have to get the properly staked out. We had mentioned this to them in the meeting, that because they're so close, that they need to get it staked out prior to doing any work. So we can add as a condition that they have.
What
to have
is the
property-
stakeout? I'm
I
sorry.
mean, the surveyor has to come and delineate where the line of their
Okay.
property is, so
Perfect,
that you would know and they would know not to do any work
exactly.
outside of their property line. It would make it a little easier to.
Because the way I understood it when we built the big, retaining wall is
It's on your property.
correct.
Yeah.
I do have a question for, Mr. Vivino. So you right now have a temporarily to put in some sort of storm drain. Where is that going to
Yeah. that's-
permanently be
that was my
installed, and
next
where is that gonna discharge?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I think the intent was that it tied into the existing drainage system. This, I'm not
That
entirely
was my
sure.
next
actually.
question.
Are there drains in the driveway in the back?
And there's some pictures showing it's kind of.
Yeah.
So where it's going to, it looks like it's leaking.
Yeah, you can see
Here,
I think this is just a temporary thing during construction.
Well, the reason why I ask is because you're so close, you're pretty much on the property line. Unless that's gonna be laying across the staircase, you could not install it on the neighbor's property, so I don't know if that's part of the, you have some sort of plan on what.
And it looked like the leader was tied.
well, also, she brings up a good point. How are they supposed to walk from the stairwell to the entrance door
When the entrance. to
when the
door's on
entrance
the
door
other
is
side.
not where the stairwell is located?
It-
And if they have to increase the impervious surface to get there, if they have to do a walkway, which currently looks like dirt in their own pictures, when they need to increase impervious surface.
That's a basement
So-
door on the bottom side and the,
So they, what's the plan to turn this from, because it's a stairwell now, are they planning on putting any additional walkway here to get to this, impervious surface that's over this way? Otherwise, if you're walking through mud in the winter, that's gonna be a whole lot of.
Yes, this is actually a walkway between, where the stairs end. And here's the entrance of the house. So this, yes, you can walk through freely.
Is it grass? Is it?
Right now, this is a stone, like grass and stone.
And it's gonna remain that way?
It will remain that way, yeah, because it's clean. It's an area that you can walk easily. This is the space, the connection between the two houses.
You can't see it in here, but there was in the photos, you could see, the first photo, I mean, you see the dirt here, and then that's the landing, that's the bottom of the house. And that's the landing, what you just referred to as like stone and dirt. In grass, that's, I mean, we can only see a portion of it, but that's what it looks like there, so.
Could you leave that up there for a minute, that picture?
And it looks like it's tied, this pipe of water, looks like it's going down underground or something.
I have a question, Bob. That pipe, those pipes, it crosses the stairs. That's a hazard, isn't it?
Well, it's not gonna
That's why-
say, it's
that's-
temporary. that's
It's
what
not
I'm saying.
But that's why I asked the question, what is the plan, what they're gonna do with that? That's temporary, their construction, but there's gotta be a permanent way of putting, what's the plan to put the piping in? It's gonna continue to discharge the water into that pipe, which I'm assuming is going to some sort of dry well.
So I have a question and I'm gonna address this to Linda before we go any further, because I think there are more questions than we have answers for. Right now, is it appropriate to ask for an adjournment to get some more?
Yeah, but I think you should make sure they understand, what additional information you want, maybe some pictures of the back showing the area going from the bottom of the stairs to the entrance to the rear building, because the concern there is, are they then gonna wanna build a solid walkway and that increases the impervious surface even further? So I think that's a question. Another question is about the drainage.
Drainage and then
Not just the drainage, but the drainage location,
the drainage
Right.
location
where to the drain to.
And that berm that they built on, that may be on the other property.
For what Bob was saying, I would ask for before and after photos, because we don't have the benefit of seeing it before the variance was granted. They already started the work. We don't know what the pre-existing land looks like.
Could I ask one more question? No?
So in the picture, it's hard to tell. I can imagine it in my mind, but there has to be before and after, whether that's 10 years ago, because the earth doesn't change that much, or.
Well, this is a new owner, so they may not have it before.
That property was recently on a real estate site, so there should be
Hmm.
some pictures.
Well, there's a question that maybe the architect or the property owner can say, if there was no stairs there and that was a slope,
I mean,
and you have stairs installed in there, when the dirt was removed from there, where was
So
the
there was
dirt
a head
removed
there
from
yeah,
site?
there's a head there before. That's the
So
before
there was-
picture.
there's not a-
Yeah, that picture is from July 2021. So
Well,
that hedge is no longer there.
Well, if there was no staircase there, I'm assuming that was just the natural grade slope.
Mhm.
So to be able to install what we started, dirt had to be removed. What,
So is that the dirt that's on the side?
The hedge
That-
that's the
are
question.
gone.
Where did that
Right,
dirt go?
the dirt gets thrown up on
It's up on the
the
hill.
property.
I mean,
You need a hill.
So
They may need to restore that. If you would have pictures of what that hill looks like.
I'm gonna look when I get home, but like she said, I think I remember seeing them in the real estate, pictures when it was on the
it took
market.
them down, but somebody,
No,
No, they take them down.
it was sold of it.
They take them down. when it's
Right.
sold.
But yeah, I would like to see more clear pictures of both sides of the property, including, the area where that porch is, on the driveway, and a clear picture of, the walkway plans for that tenant in the back.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's tight there. I don't know if they could get a stair going down.
That's the side, that's the side that the
I
tenant
thi- I
goes
think
into
the
the
issue
bungalow.
is, once they, again, if I were a tenant and I had to walk down that driveway to get to the back, you have to start off kind of level, but then it kind of dips, so I get it, if I had to slide down the driveway.
That's terrifying.
Right, that's the need for the stair.
That's the
Yeah.
need for the stairs, I get that.
I think that, I think you do want to consider that they're asking for an accommodation to improve safety.
Right.
It's worth, looking into whether they're doing enough.
Yes, I think that there's some questions about, structure, earth movement, about the drainage, about, the survey. So I think that there's some issues that we would ask that you come back with, only to make things clearer for us so that we could make a determination that is, is.
Is this a 2-family or a 3-family? You have more questions?
Yeah, I did have one more, but you kind of touched base on it. It was the,
Is this a 2-family or a 3-family?
happened with the drainage.
It's a 2-family.
The whole property was the first, the main house, 2-family, and the apartment in the back is 3? What it's total?
No, it's a 1-family, the front house, and a 1-family, the back house.
Looks like at one point there was 3 mailboxes. And the old picture, maybe at one point it was no.
She said,
But she's saying it's 2.5. Okay.
And do we want any guarantee with regard to, fact that it's a professional engineer or as an architect?
Michael Devine is our professional
Right.
architect.
So that we can say that the retaining wall is not gonna be affected by this.
Well, the retaining wall's not adjacent to it. It's when it was on the survey.
It's 20 feet away.
Is it, the very end of the stairway?
Yeah, Michael, can you just do a dimension from the edge of the stairs to the, sort of the nearest point of the retaining wall? Just for our, for what purpose? He has the actual, digital drawing
Okay.
from the survey, so he can take that measurement right now. Which is helpful.
Yeah, we'll take the
Yeah.
issue off.
I mean, from maybe the bottom,
The corner to the nearest point on the.
Retaining wall.
Yeah, on the retaining wall.
17'9".
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. So, I think in light of the fact that we do have some, questions that need to be answered, I would like to, entertain a motion to adjourn this. The public meeting is still open. We did not close the public meeting, but to adjourn this, this applicant, until the October meeting. So come
We
back.
adjourn the public
you have to adjourn the
hearing
public
and
meeting too,
adjourn
yeah.
the-
Yeah, so we're gonna adjourn the public hearing and adjourn the application, until the October meeting.
Right.
Need a motion. I need a motion.
So moved, Kyle.
Seconded, Olga.
Okay, so, and, you.
What's the, first and second opening? I'm sorry. You guys can go.
Do we need to do the same for the adjourning
So, we just adjourned the
public?
Public hearing
hearing,
and the
and
application.
now we're gonna, now we have.
We can do it together.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Both
it's
together.
done together. So, do we need to do a roll call vote to adjourn, or we can do? No, do either one. No, if there's no objection to adjourning the public hearing and the application at this point in time, let's do, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this application will be placed back on the October meeting, but we do need to have that information given to the planning department, and, prior to our meeting, so that we can at least catch up on where you are.
Understood. Thank you all very much.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you again
Thanks.
next
See
month.
you next month.
Thank you.
The first Tuesday of the month, or is it open?
Second.
Will new letters go out to the neighbors?
No.
No.
But you can go online, you'll be able to see if they have something in their return, it'll be dependent on them submitting new materials, so if they submit those new materials by the time the revision deadline comes up, then they'll be on the new agenda, you can go online and check about a week and a half in advance. If they're listed as adjourned, then they're not coming, if they're listed as on as continuing business, then you can call it off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we are up to, continuing business of the board.
Have a good evening.
Yeah. ZBA 14/2022, right? Thank you.
It is 30 words. So I am, before I bring to them, I'm going to, take a look at the staff report, because there's a lot of variances. I think we have 11 listed, one of them maybe not actually, so you may only have 10 to review. One of them is pronged variance related to habitable report, so I have those things, so I'm gonna that up. Okay. So the applicant is proposing to construct an 8-story mixed-use residential building with 109 all affordable residential units. And they're also going to build a 4-level garage with 176 spaces. the fourth floor of the garage, be a public municipal garage, 45 spots. The applicant will be also performing a brownfield cleanup on the site and creating a linear park along Sing Sing Hill, connecting the park under Central Avenue Bridge to the Sing Sing Hill walkway. So the variances that are in front of you today are, first of all, bulk requirements. One is for a parking structure proposed within 20 feet of the street, where 20 feet are required and 8.5 feet are proposed. They're requesting 11.5 foot variance for that. Parking structure being within 15 feet of the lot line, where 15 feet is required, they are proposing 1 foot and they're requesting a 14-foot variance. There's a minimum setback for parking or loading areas from the street or lot line to the parking structure. 10 feet are required, 1 foot is proposed, so they're requesting a 9-foot variance. The impervious coverage is required to have 60%. They are proposing to have 65.6%, so they are requesting a 5.6% variance. They are also requesting for special provisions applicable to planned waterfront districts, so a variance from habitable space provision. There are multiple different iterations of this variance, so some of them are, a couple hundred, 100 square feet, some are 105, so on and so forth. They're going to get into the details of this. I don't want to get into that right now. There's the non-residential district access. Linda has expressed that she doesn't think it's actually a variance required.
Because it says square feet, but not an absolute requirement.
Yeah. So you can kind of skip that one. The next one is non-residential districts, properties adjacent or containing a water course, not providing a 25-foot buffer on each side of a water course. So 25 feet is required, 0 feet is proposed, and so they need a 25-foot variance. For the parking and loading regulations for prohibited parking areas, having parking in the front yard, there's a 15-foot setback required, 1 foot has been proposed, so they're requesting a 14-foot variance. For parking and loading access, proposing to install a driveway entrance within 50 feet of an intersection. 50 feet is required, 42 feet is proposed, so they need an 8-foot variance. And then parking and loading regulations in enclosed facilities, proposing parking on the first floor, extending a minimum of 40 feet back from the building line. 40 feet from the building required, 0 feet is proposed, so they would need a 40-foot variance request. Bulk zoning, also the maximum of 30% of the total street parking along Central Avenue. 30% is the max that you can provide in terms of parking along Central Avenue. 39% is what they're proposed, so they would need a 9% variance.
I think a lot of these will make more sense when you see the plan.
We've
Yeah.
seen this.
You've
before.
seen
You
it.
have-
Yeah.
You had a preliminary, at that time, the planning board had not yet completed, secret. Now they've adopted a negative declaration, so now it's coming back
So
to you.
before we get to that, the applicant itself is Village of Ossining.
Yeah, so the owner of the property is the Village of Ossining, and so a few years back, the Village of Ossining put out a request for proposals from affordable housing developers to come with a proposal to develop affordable housing on that site. And so there were a lot of conditions that came with it, including provision of some public parking spaces, provision of linear park, affordable housing, mixed use. And so the site being what it is, it's sort of a narrow site with a creek running right through it.
Yeah.
And so all of these variances essentially are associated with that issue, right? And so the zoning is a little bit different there, and there are actually even some conflicting provisions that you can see in the way that they designed this. So they'll need to explain it, but we are the owners of the site. We have essentially a public-private partnership working with this applicant. They were selected through the RFP process, and they are, paying their way through this process. But they were selected a couple of years ago, and we're now at this point in the stage where they're coming for the variance.
There was a concern about whether the fire trucks could reach the 8th floor. they were gonna do some testing. Did they test to see whether the fire truck had proper access and the ladders would reach the roof in case it went on fire later?
We are currently working on getting that, I'm glad you brought that up. We're working on getting that scheduled. Hopefully it'll be scheduled, both days. We have not been able to get the schedule locked down for that. And so we are requesting the zoning board to take no action today until we do have that done and
Because it could change.
sorted out.
the
It
plan.
could change.
So we need to make a motion to adjourn this.
No.
No, you're gonna hear it.
Because we can still get information about all
Yeah.
plans, we don't have to also do that next. time.
Okay, so they're gonna tell us what's new since last time they came to us with information.
I think they have more information.
I think there's more
Hopefully.
information, and I don't think we went through all of the,
Because we knew it wasn't. coming.
right. It's just been the secret process, so we really kind of been treading along. So at this point, we can hear from the applicant.
Yeah.
And
And I just, before I bring in, I kind of want to set the table in terms of expectations for this meeting. I think the goal is to get to one of two places. One is either to get to the point where you are, all your questions are answered and you're ready to vote, but knowing that you can't vote. Or you get to a point where you have a question that needs to be answered. Got it. You give that request to them so they can come back to the next meeting. So you want to get through all of these as much as possible.
Is one of it still, I decide again, it's on the square footage of the house, what we do.
I think they just
They
figured that
did
out.
submit that, they submitted that, yesterday in writing and today in the layouts, they've actually submitted the layouts. So, did you not get those?
No, but when I went over this morning, it was still requiring variances to that, that wasn't read as one of the variants.
I didn't read the details because they have added some more details. But they need to go over that. They have,
Did you get Taylor?
Taylor is the dummy? No,
Taylor is their attorney. That's it. Karen's okay. Karen's fine with her something.
Taylor's the putting good.
Yes.
Okay.
hello and welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I hear you have some information for us.
Yeah, I'll start. My name is Jim Wendling. I'm with WBP Development. I'm joined by Chris Hahn, who's also with me on from WBP Development. Maxwell Power, our lead architect. He's a partner with Buyer Blinder Bell. Rich Williams, a principal with Insight Engineering. And Taylor Palmer from Cuddy and Feder. As Jaime, first of all, thank you for setting this up and doing a great job on the background. We were last before you a few months ago. As Jaime said, this has been a few years in the making, about 2.5, 3 years in the making. And we're really excited to be back before you. I think it'd be best to go to Taylor and Rich because we do have a lot of information to share. So with that, I will go to Taylor and we'll answer any questions you have.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Chairperson, members of the Zoning Board. My name is Taylor Palmer. I'm a partner with the law firm of Cuddy and Feder on behalf of the applicant. As Jim mentioned, we are joined by our team here. But before I turn it over to Rich, let me steal a few of his talking points about the variances that are before you this evening. And then we'll get into some of the background because the board had brought up some good questions tonight. And Jaime just really went through a lot of the important points. Just by way of point of information, a public hearing for this application was originally noticed back in June. So we will ask for a point of information following our presentation here if the board will see fit in opening that public hearing. Procedurally, we did submit a letter, as Jaime mentioned yesterday, that did go through a narrative of the 5 factors that you review in balancing the application. And those specific variances, Rich will address in just a moment. The purpose of that submission, again, was not to provide new information. It was really to provide a narrative of those details that we'd already submitted dating back to June. We just want to make sure it was in an organized fashion that go through your 5 factors. So Jim mentioned the first appearance from the team before your board was on June 14th. At that time, the matter was continued to July 12th, and then it was continued to tonight because you didn't have an August meeting for continued review. As was detailed in your September 7th memo, and I believe Jaime mentioned it earlier, the planning board recently adopted on June 28th a negative declaration, which means that the planning board, who served as the lead agency for your environmental review, confirmed that this project will not have any significant adverse environmental impacts. Now for the good stuff. That was just the procedural lead in there. But by way of brief background, as Jaime mentioned, for the benefit of the board and those in the public that might be attending this evening, for the record, the project does date back to 2019, as Jaime mentioned, and that was dating to the request for proposals. Again, this is a village-owned property and was based on an RFQ that specifically was in response to community need for affordable housing and to make a meaningful connection between the waterfront and the downtown to expand the Sing Sing Kill Greenway, all of which are part of this proposal before you. For the benefit of the public that will be attending, if the board sees fit in opening the public hearing, the property itself is a 3.2 acre site. It is on the south side of Central Avenue. It's bound by Water Street, and it's in your Water Street Central Waterfront Transit-oriented district. And of course, it's presently improved by a DPW yard. And we are proposing to replace the existing DPW garage that's on the building with a new parking structure. Ultimately, WP Development was chosen as the preferred developer by the village in 2019. And as Jaime mentioned, we are proposing 109 total affordable units. It had been originally proposed at 125. It has since been reduced based on site constraints and other factors. There's 14,521 square feet of common amenity space, 3,170 square feet of retail space, and then 3,750 square feet of community space. Importantly, the project, as Jim mentioned, includes very significant and substantial public benefits. That includes 45 parking spaces on the 4th level, an extension of the Sing Sing Kill Greenway, and again, those are public parking spaces, stormwater improvements, and then one of the most important factors is the cleanup of the property through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's Brownfield Cleanup Program. Rich is going to touch on this in just a moment, but importantly, as we look through the factors, is that the application that's before you is based on a number of factors, but namely physical conditions of the existing premises that currently serves as the DPW yard for the village. And ultimately, it relies on certain definitional differences between your village's definitional sections and the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, which again, we'll get into momentarily, and that deals with the habitable area of the certain units. A lot of these details that are included in our presentation tonight are directly incorporated into that correspondence. As the board mentioned tonight, you're not taking any action, but we wanted to make sure you had that list of details regarding the 5 factors, so you had a real understanding or summary of the information that we provided, because we know it can be significant and you have a big task before you, but hopefully we were able to synthesize the information in this application to make it easier to follow. But naturally, we're here for any questions. With that, again, with the point of information regarding the public hearing, I will turn it to Rich to go through the specifics on these variances that are before you. And again, we're here for any questions you might have. Rich, you're on mute.
The last Zoom meeting got me. So good evening, Rich Williams with Insight Engineering. Thanks, Taylor, for the summary. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share out my screen to show you the site plan and show you where the variances being sought are located and some of the background behind them. Everybody should be looking at our site plan now. I'm going to work down the table that was provided that Jaime went through and summarized. The first variance is for the parking structure being located within 20 feet of the street. There's 20 feet required. We are providing 8.5 feet. That is located in this portion of the property right here, where the parking garage comes closest to the property line. And again, it's in the spirit of trying to provide the requisite parking for both our project and the village. Again, the 4th story of this garage will be public parking. Also, we are mimicking the footprint of the existing DPW building that's on the corner there. So 11.5 feet of foot variance is sought. The second variance is for a parking structure being within 15 feet of the lot line. Again, that occurs right here at the same corner. We have 1 foot provided and a 14-foot variance sought. The next variance is for the minimum setback for parking or loading areas from the street or lot line to the parking structure. 10 feet required. Again, it's this front corner where we're providing that 1 foot, so a 9-foot variance is sought from that provision. If the board wants me to stop and re-review the application, what is comprised of, where things are located, I can do that. I just, in the interest of time, I know you've seen this application before, so I thought I would jump right in. But if you do need me to go back and just review anything, stop me at any time. The next variance sought is for impervious coverage. What's really driving that is a proposed subdivision of the property. So as Taylor mentioned, we are going to be extending the Sing Sing Kill Greenway down through the site. And ultimately, the village is going to retain the northern portion of the site, which is the forested portion. which will allow that to be preserved. So as a result of that subdivision, our 3.2 acre site now becomes 2.1 acres. So we're at 65.6% coverage. If we weren't doing the subdivision and you were looking at the property as a whole, a variance wouldn't be necessary. The next on the table is the habitable floor area variances. I'm going to skip over those for a minute because I'm going to turn the form over to Maxwell so we can talk about those in more detail. Next variance is access to lots having frontage on more than one street shall be from a non-residential street. Based on the layout of the site, we front on 3 streets. We have Central, Water, and Main. Our access is going to be derived from Water Street and Central Avenue. As such, we'll need variances from that code provision. Next variance sought is not providing a 20-foot buffer on each side of the watercourse. The Sing Sing Kill does run through the middle of the property. The reason why we're not providing the buffer is obviously the site is currently disturbed up to the Sing Sing Kill. As part of our project, we'll be doing work within the kill, namely for the Greenway extension, in addition to a proposed stormwater improvement. That was something that was requested by the village as part of the RFP process. And the intent is to provide a stilling basin in the upstream portion of the site, as well as piers to help catch debris that often flow down the kill and currently impact the Water Street culvert. So this is an area where that debris will be able to be captured. Again, that's, we are now working in the kill to install those improvements, and those are improvements that were requested as part of the original RFP. The next variance sought is for having parking in the front yard. Based on the memo provided to us from the village, we were told that 15 feet is required. Again, we have 1 foot right on this front corner, so there's a 14-foot variance sought. The next variance, we consulted with Jaime and village staff on how to measure this. So there is a change in the table that you were looking at from our submission. The code provision is a driveway entrance can't be within 50 feet of an intersection. The submission we had provided cited that we were providing 42 feet and seeking an 8-foot variance based on a clarification as to how we measured, and that occurs right here from our proposed driveway to the intersection of Central Avenue. We have 40.5 feet provided, so a 9.5 foot variance is sought. The next variance sought is for proposed parking on the first floor, extending a minimum of 40 feet back from the building line. Again, obviously, we have a building line of 15 feet from Central Avenue. Not only are we not 40 feet back, but we are beyond that building line. So we cited providing 0 feet and are seeking a variance just because we are over the building line. The last variance sought, other than the habitable space, is for 30% of our parking being along the frontage of Central Avenue and Water Street. Again, you're required or allowed a maximum of 30% because of the parking garage, which is considered parking, and because of the subdivision lot line here. 75% of our frontage along Central Avenue will be parking, although it'll be located in a garage structure. Similarly, along Water Street, 32% of our frontage is parking, but again, it's located in the garage. So as a result of that, we'll have a 45% variance sought along Central Avenue and a 2% variance along Water Street. Before I turn it over to Maxwell to discuss habitable space, does anybody have any questions?
Rich, just this is Kyle, for the benefit of the board, you had mentioned last time, and I didn't hear it this time, I thought it was great. One of the questions that came up was drainage and the water itself, and you had talked about the tanks that are built underground off the kill. Do you want to mention those again?
Sure. In addition to the stilling basin and the piers, we've developed a stormwater pollution prevention plan. Currently, there's no stormwater treatment at the site. Site acts as a DPW yard with composting, waste C&D materials often occupying the grounds, which are directly tributary to the kill. We have a series of improvements with respect to stormwater. The first is there will be a green roof on the building, which is a New York State DEC recognized green infrastructure practice. The second is we will have a series of hydrodynamic separators located on our stormwater collection system. Those devices create a swirling action of stormwater where it allows floatables to float and settleables to settle, things like sand and grit. They're in enclosed structures that can then be cleaned out periodically. And that isn't, they'll provide an additional stormwater benefit than what currently exists on site.
Thank you, Rich.
No problem. Okay, that I will stop sharing my screen. Maxwell, the screen's yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Rich. Good evening, everyone. Let me just try to get this.
Maxwell, you look like you're somewhere sunny.
I am actually on the West Coast right now. But all right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so I mean, before I start into this, if the board would like me to sort of go over anything architectural, the plans or anything, I'm happy to do that. But short of that, I can sort of jump into the issue of the habitable areas for the units. Okay, so I'll just keep going then. So, at our last meeting, we spoke about the variance requests relating to the minimum habitable unit sizes that are required under the Ossining zoning code, and how sort of practically achieving those dimensions would result in units that were sort of less desirable in terms of the amenities that we would otherwise want to put in, like things like larger closets, more storage areas, secondary bathrooms, and those sorts of things, which are all excluded under the definition of habitable floor area. But that the issue also was that expanding the units to meet the zoning code would result in larger units than is allowable under the Homes and Community Renewal program, which is the HCR program that this project is also needing to comply with. I think those are sort of the major constraints that were an issue in terms of the habitable room size requirements that we're not currently able to meet. I think the other issue is that we do have a very constrained site, both in terms of the footprint, in terms of the height and the bulk, and more importantly, this sort of irregular shape of the existing site. So that while we're trying to meet sort of the bulk and height limitations of the building, there's only so much space we have really to accommodate the 109 affordable units that we want to provide for this project. So I think sort of where we left off was sort of the discussion about how we measured the habitable areas and what we were able to provide. So since then, so at that time when we first talked about the subject, we had presented 4 of the most typical unit plans that we had at the time for the project. What we've done since is actually identify every single one of the different unit types that we have on the project, which is this set of plans here, which I think you had just received, and we were going to formally submit this for the next zoning board meeting, but I can kind of walk us through all this so you're all familiar with what we've done here. So there's 3 pages. Each page represents one unit type. So 1 bedroom is the first page, the 2 bedrooms are the second page, and the 3 bedroom units are on the 3rd page. And what we've done here is try to measure everything as we see is the intent under each of the code requirements. So I can kind of take us through this unit, which we've seen before, right? So previously we had submitted this 4-unit plan here. This is this exact same unit. The gross square feet of this unit is 691 square feet. If we look at this, what we've recently done, it's the same size overall unit. The GSF is just sort of the standard market measurement process, like if you're comparing unit sizes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction or building to building, typically the GSF square footage is sort of the gross square footage of the unit. The HCR measurement is everything that's defined under this red outline. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see there's a red outline that goes to the demising, does not include the exterior wall, which is this sort of white zone over here, but everything within it is counted under the HCR guidelines. So that's for this same unit, it comes out at 653 square feet. We've also added in what the minimum and the maximums are allowable under the guidelines. So under HCR, the minimum unit size is 600 square feet and the maximum is 745 for a 1-bedroom apartment. And the 745 also includes about 20 square feet in this case of bulk storage, right? So under the HCR guidelines, there's a requirement for the minimum and maximum of a unit. And then you also need to provide a little bit of additional storage, bulk storage, as they call it. You can do that within the apartment, or you can do that outside of the apartment. But what we've done is just to widen that range of minimum to maximum, we've included it into the unit itself. So for 1 bedroom, it's 600 to 745, and we're coming in with this unit at about 653. So sort of in the middle there. And then the HSF number is the habitable square footage calculation that we've measured using the Ossining zoning code, and that's everything that's indicated in the gray hatch. So if we zoom in here, so it's a little easier to see, everything that's colored in gray here is counted towards the habitable square footage. Anything that's white, it's not, right? So your code does not allow us to include things such as foyers, closets, right? So whether it's a linear closet, linen closet, or a walk-in closet, those can't be counted, or bathrooms. And also, as you'll see in the larger units, corridors also cannot be counted as well, right? So when we take that measurement of the gray that's in here, for this unit, we're at 490 square feet, right? So we are at a deficit of 110 square feet, right? So that is the worst case scenario of all of the 1-bedroom apartments that we have. Right, so if we look at this typology, we're at 110 square feet for the variance request. And then for the other 2 units that we have, they're slightly bigger, so the variance is a little bit less for those particular units. So this is the 1-bedroom condition. Any questions so far? I went through that really quickly, but the logic is sort of the same for the other 2 unit types. Okay, so let me go to the next page, which talks about the 2-bedroom apartments, right? So these are the 4 different 2-bedroom apartments that we have in the project. This is the one that we had showed you in the previous one. And again, it did not change. It's the same overall gross square footage. And we sort of just run through the same logic here. Under HCR, a 2-bedroom apartment can be a minimum of 750 square feet and a maximum of 970 square feet. And in this case, we've taken out the foyer, the closets and the bathrooms, and we are coming out at about 669, and the minimum required per zoning is 750. So the variance request for this unit is, for the 2 bedrooms, I believe, is 81 square feet. Let me just see. Sorry, the variance request for 2 bedrooms is 95. So we're sort of taking the worst case, right, scenario. So that's this unit right in here. All right, so again, a 2-bedroom apartment, closets, foyer, and the bathroom here. Right. So one of the things that we were trying to achieve with the units that we have designed is units that sort of relate better to the tenants that use these units today, right? So we're finding in all of the projects that we're doing, both market rate and affordable projects, is that they want efficient units that have a lot of closet space, right? So we've intentionally put in a lot of walk-in closets for all the bedrooms, linen closets, coat closets, and even extra closets in certain cases to really accommodate that. All of the bathrooms are sized for ADA. So obviously that's where we need to meet that compliance path as well. So those bathrooms typically look a little bit bigger. And you can sort of see in general, that's how we've sort of laid out all of these units in here, right? Sort of pretty efficient units, but giving ample amenities within the units as well.
Maxwell, just want to point out one thing for the benefit of the board. If we try and simplify this too, because the visual is really helpful for this point, the units themselves are meeting the square footage requirements. It's just that the definition itself is saying these specific areas don't constitute habitable floor area. We did, and you'll see in our submission, we incorporated just some reference documents from the Westchester County model affordable housing guidance for their ordinances. So we incorporated references to the Dobbs Ferry and Tarrytown codes, which actually provide an alternative for calculating that habitable floor area, because again, relying on the state standards, we do meet and actually exceed those requirements, but according to the definition. So again, we're providing those square footages. It's just not being considered counted because it's the definitional section. So I just wanted to flag that while you see the visual, those are all in the units. We're not providing square footage. It's just not being considered habitable. And that word is, I apologize for saying it. It sounds weird when I say it every time, habitable square footage. But we just wanted to highlight for the board. It's there. It's just not being considered as part of that definition, which is generally in contrast to some of those guidance from the Westchester County model affordable ordinance.
Great.
Sorry to interrupt, Maxwell.
No problem. And I think the other issue that we had discussed last time as well is that, even if, we had all the bulk we needed or all the height we needed to basically increase the size of the units to meet the habitable floor areas. So in this case, we would have to add, at least 81 square feet to this particular unit type. We'd be over on the HCR maximum, right? 81 plus 906 is 987, right? So we're already higher than the 970 maximum, which already includes, in-unit bulk storage as well. So, that's sort of a typical, I guess, conflict that we're also seeing in all of these units. If we go to the 3 bedrooms, just to sort of finish this off, there are also 4 3-bedroom typologies in the project as well. And sort of the same thing applies here, except in this case, it's actually even more extreme. Like these are pretty large units. Like this is a sort of our standard, well, it's not really any standard 3s because there's only 9 of them, but there's 4 of these. And this is a 1,230 square foot gross square footage apartment, which is fairly sizable. Under HCR, we're at 1163 already. So we're really, almost brushing up against the upper limit of HCR. However, based on the way we measure it for habitable floor area, we're only at 832. So we're actually a full 168 square feet under the minimum habitable square footage requirement. And that's pretty typical of all of the 3 bedrooms, just because they're so big. And, there are corridors associated with 3 bedrooms because you got to get to that 3rd bedroom. So you'll see, like in a plan like this, not only are you, losing out on the bathrooms, but also the corridors as well.
Maxwell, can you talk a little bit about, or I don't know, Maxwell or Taylor, can you talk a little bit about the maximum and what that is and why it exists and what it means for these projects?
For HCR.
HCR maximum.
Yeah, so and Rich might be able to talk a little bit more about the program itself, but basically the HCR Homes Community Renewal Program has come out with these guidelines, and they actually just recently renewed or revised their guidelines. And the intent is to obviously provide sizable units that people can use, right? Like they don't want, folks to be, building very small affordable units, but they also recognize that there's sort of a sweet spot, right? If you build something that's too big, then you're sort of, building it at the cost of building more affordable units potentially, right? Because there's, only so much space or resources available to build those units. So they always come out with, for every unit size type, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom studios, they come out with minimums and maximums. And so for a 3 bedroom, it's 900 minimum, maximum is actually 1150. But if you add the bulk storage component, it bumps it up by 25 square feet. So it's 900 to 1175 is the range for a 3 bedroom apartment.
Is everybody clear on why those exist?
I was one of the people last meeting that had asked about this. This is all super clear. This all makes sense.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I think the way they presented it this way on
It's
these
really
plans
good,
makes it
yeah.
very clear, and it allows you to understand what variances are needed, how many apartments, and it's very clear this way.
Yeah, it's almost your code with the different numbers almost discourages the accessible bathrooms and the bigger closets.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you got some.
For example, the 1 3-bedroom apartment, I think this is one of the clearest examples. The unit type 3-bedroom A, you can only increase it 12 more, 13 more square feet, and we require 168 more square feet under our guidance. So it's literally impossible to reconcile that. So there is no change. So it's very clear.
And that's exactly right. We run into this in other municipalities, which is why we incorporate it into our submission to your board so you can see the reference. Other communities have had this exact problem. And so what they put, and this is quoting language, for example, from Dobbs Ferry, as an alternative or supplemental standard to the minimum gross floor area per affordable unit, it shall be in accordance with the standards set forth by New York State Homes and Community Renewal. And the idea there is that because otherwise you're conflating two standards and oftentimes run into this exact situation.
Get all that,
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, we've had this conversation internally about adopting the HDR standard for affordable units.
This is not our first rodeo. We
Great.
go through what HCR wants and the village has in the code, so.
And without HCR, the project.
And, yeah, so, as, you know, unfortunately, I did get a few calls today. There are a few people looking for affordable housing, and the cost is rolling in. So I think it's something that's very necessary. So I applaud you for even taking on this project. So thank you very much. I think at the July meeting, that was the July meeting, that we had, did we open the public hearing at that time?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. So, if there's no other questions from the board, then, I would entertain the motion of opening the public hearing at this time.
So move, Bob.
Second, Kyle.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak on? If there's no objection, the public hearing is open. I'm sorry.
No, there's nobody in the audience. I have not gotten any recent.
Do you think we would adjourn? Oh,
I just want to. So, I know that there's some additional questions that needed to be answered. I know that, I think, we've heard about the parking issues, the area variances, the habitable space area, variances, I think I'm missing something.
I stepped out, I would like to, a little more about the flooding calculations.
So Rich, I had asked you for the benefit of the board to repeat something you told us last time, and Mike is actually one of the people who wasn't here and he had stepped out to go to the bathroom. It's about the stormwater mitigation, and you did a good job of.
So you can do it again. We know you can.
Rich,
Sure, no.
before you get going, Rich, I guess I have two concerns. Number one is that the underwater street itself, there is a small culvert that looks like it dates back to the 1930s. As we all know, in flood control, you can do all you want to do upstream, but if you're going into a small neck of a bottle, which is namely that part that goes underneath past the restaurant out to the Hudson, doesn't really do you any good. So, but is there any plans to change that?
Well, they can only do the property they're proposing, but they do have several factors they're using to help keep that mass of water for
Outside, yeah.
Okay, so I understand that. The second issue was there was something brought up about the fact that the village would maintain the upper portion, the north portion
That's correct.
of the property. So to me, here again, that's another issue with regard to the fact that you can do all you want with regard to flood control, retention, depth of the kill, things, depth of the kill, depth of stream. But unless that is maintained upstream during a severe storm, all that stuff will end up down in front of these nice new apartments.
I think you gotta let Rich speak.
Yeah.
You gotta answer for all that.
But
Okay.
the village
Yeah.
is maintaining the
Yeah.
ownership of the upper part of that.
Yeah,
So they're not, that's not gonna be there.
But they're doing some work up
But
there
they
to
are
make
doing
some
some work
improvement.
up there. that
Yes.
needs to be-
Yeah, well, I mean, Linda knows better than I do, but the actual terms of the sort of the maintenance of that, it's gonna be a little more nuanced than just.
and believe me, you know, I'm in favor of the general actions or the general proposal itself, but I'm just concerned that with all these nice little buildings.
Well, I think
End up with
there's a bunch of things they're gonna do
Yeah.
that should address those.
And,
questions,
and
so.
also you should know that's a topic that the planning board looked at very carefully before making the negative declaration under secret.
Yeah.
But Rich, if you could do the couple of minute review of the drainage improvements again, because you're so good at it.
Well, I'm going to start by saying we share your concern. You know, we are going to be the owner occupant at the downstream end of the kill, and we certainly don't want to build a beautiful project and have it impacted by floodwaters. I'm going to go right back to the RFP because Paul Fraioli was aware and is aware of what happens with the kill and how it floods. And in that initial RFP, they required a stormwater improvement to happen in the kill. as we spent time, acclimating ourselves to the project, what we have come to find out, and I'll touch base on the downstream culvert you were mentioning, which is off-site and we don't control, it's actually MTA controlled, as part of my explanation, because you bring up a good point. What happens, according to Paul, and what has happened historically, and actually we've observed even since this project has been proposed, a lot of debris gets flushed down the kill during heavy storm surges. And it's that first flush that comes racing down. And what actually happens right now is, to your point, and you said it very accurately, it's the bottle. It's the top of the bottle, or the choke point. This Water Street culvert becomes that choke point. And a lot of times what'll happen is, we've heard Paul and Joe Tremelli talk about even car engines coming down, large branches, debris, immediately plug. And immediate you create a dam here, you instantly start backwatering within the kill until you hit your weakest failure mode, which is right about here and here at the end of those training walls. And the water then starts coming around and flooding the site. So in working with Paul and Joe, we're doing two things on the upstream end of the property, and I'll talk about the maintenance of them as part of this conversation. We're creating a stilling basin on the side of the kill that is going to be deeper than the kill. So basically what we're going to be doing is creating a basin right alongside it. And then at the very last minute, we'll remove some sandbags and let the water filter in. That stilling basin is going to combine with a series of piers that go across the kill on an angle. So that instead of having the choke point be downstream at the culvert where the failure mode is the low point of the site, we're going to, in essence, catch that debris in the upper portion of the site where you have a very steep, very tall, very high valley. Now, if that isn't maintained, you are absolutely correct. That will lead to downstream problems. In talking with the village, and this has again been worked out through the maintenance agreements, we are providing access for village DPW to be able to get back to that stilling basin and those piers, and they have committed to maintaining that. So that is going to help alleviate this choke point. I'll talk about on-site stormwater last because that's probably the easiest. So next I'll move downstream. So there is another culvert downstream that DPW is forever trying to coordinate maintenance with MTA. It is a very difficult thing for them from what I've come to understand. But should that become a downstream choke point, the failure mode is actually this parking lot. And you would have to fail all the way back up the parking lot. Water Street would be underwater, and then it would come to our site. So the primary area we've been concerned with, and in talking to Paul and Joe, what's historically plagued the DPW site isn't as much this culvert as it is the minute this becomes plugged with debris, you instantly have a tailwater effect coming up the kill that floods into the low portion of the site. With respect to on-site stormwater, in addition to the stilling basin and the piers, we're going to have a green roof on one of the buildings. We are going to have a slight decrease in impervious surfaces, and we'll be having hydrodynamic separators on the stormwater discharge lines prior to the kill. So by virtue of the brownfield cleanup, the fact that this site won't be operating as a DPW yard, as well as the stormwater management practices we're providing, there'll be an improvement to water quality to the kill from what exists today.
Sorry, I took a wrong opportunity to go to the bathroom now, but thank you so much for going through it again.
Thank you. We did have a motion to open the public hearing, so the public hearing is open. If there's no one to speak,
We need a motion to adjourn.
I don't know, it's still open, so I just want to make sure that there's no one to speak on that before we move forward. Again, there were some things that we need to bring back. I know the first thing was the discussion of the fire truck. So that we will definitely need to find that out for a future meeting. We've talked about the different variances, the parking. I'm just trying to get it, yeah.
Everything on that.
So,
That little corner, that corner parking.
Do you want to make a motion to close to adjourn the public hearing?
Yes, but I
Yes.
also want to adjourn.
That's what we're gonna do.
Well, before you do that, I want to ask you if it makes sense. There are a few that are not going to change. Some of these are definitely not going to change. And it might be worthwhile to at least talk a little bit about the 5 factors for like the parking garage, the location of the parking garage. things like that. The impervious numbers could change, right? We don't know about that one. And that's the big one, but the ones associated with the parking. So you could do that, or what we could do is sort of say, look, we're gonna have to get reacquainted with everything at the next meeting and go through the 5 factors. You could go through the 5 factors today, hold off if you think you have a sense of where you're gonna go till the next meeting. But sort of go through that analysis today. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's 8:48 and I don't know what the next meeting is gonna look like. So you could have a bunch of items and this item could end up being, you'll be here till 10 o'clock. So food for thought.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, you can do either way, so.
We need to adjourn the public meeting first before we do that.
You can adjourn the public hearing, have a discussion on the matters that are not gonna change.
Go adjourn the public meeting for next week, the next month.
Hearing.
Public hearing.
Yeah, public hearing.
Seconded over.
So the public hearing portion will be adjourned until our October meeting. And if it's amenable to the board, then we will go through the factors for the.
Start at the top, yeah.
Well, why don't we kind of lump these?
I was gonna say, can we
So,
lump these?
so there's a number of variances that relate to the parking
Parking
structure and
And
the
especially that
setback
corner, right.
related to the parking structure. Mostly related to that corner where it hits the closest. So I think those can all be kind of lumped together. There's also related to the parking, are the, sorry, I'm running through. Parking, and so the parking in the front yard is also related to that. The location of the driveway within 50 feet of the intersection, because that relates to the location of the garage.
The parking and loading also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So one,
and the 40-foot from the first on the first floor for the parking.
Yeah.
And
The number
then
of cars on the street.
then the 30% along Central Avenue. So those all relate to the parking structure. So why don't we talk about the parking structure?
That's one thing,
As one,
yeah. Okay.
and all the area variances
Yeah.
associated with the parking structure. The
th-
parking,
And this is particularly to save Rich from explaining this 2 more times at the next meeting.
Yes,
Because we're all acquainted with it now, we can
Yeah.
get our
Yes.
heads wrapped around it.
nice actually.
This makes me very happy.
I could probably explain it better than Rich.
So,
So as we let us go through the area variances for the
parking structure.
parking structure area, so all of the parking structure area.
so do you want me to? Rich, I'm using your chart. So, the first one is parking structure within 20 feet of the street. Next is parking structure within 15 feet of the lot line. Minimum setback for parking or loading areas from the street or lot line to the parking structure. Sorry, they're not really lumped together.
Parking in the front yard.
Parking in a front yard. Driveway entrance within 50 feet of an intersection. Proposed parking on the first floor extending 40 feet back from the building line. And then the maximum 30% parking along street frontage for both Central and Water Street. So those all relate to
Or
parking.
one thing.
Yeah, so let us go through the 5 factors for that, and understand that it's not the entire parking structure, it is actually just
Well,
the area- it's
the
just
variance
area
is
variance.
greatest at that corner,
at that corner, right?
but it does extend, yeah,
Across the.
right, but that's the closest point, but it does apply to most of the parking structure. Okay, so, an undesirable, so you have to consider whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties by the granting of the area variance.
the property is essentially landlocked, so landlocked by the streets around it. And also by the nature of the property itself being long within. So really, there is no undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby property because of the fact that you're only dealing with what they fit in that particular spot. So I don't really see the problem.
And remember also, and Rich mentioned this, the parking garage is essentially in the footprint of the existing building.
And that was gonna be my add-on to that, where I agree with Michael, because the DPW ain't pretty to look at. I think, and neither is the site, but talking about just the DPW building itself. And the way, I mean, when we went over all the pictures, the architectural plans last time, the look of the parking garage is also nice. So they're not just putting up this concrete structure where you see all the cars and everything. It looks well designed. and nice. So
I agree with what Mike said, amended by Kyle.
Olga, I agree as well. I mean, you can only improve. I don't know that it can get worse. Anything to do to it, I mean, it's an improvement.
And parking is always an issue.
You know, this might be a good opportunity, just, I know y'all are going through this. Maxwell, could you pull up the architectural, drawings, the elevations of that parking garage? Cause it's not, it wasn't like an afterthought.
There's been some effort going
Yeah.
into the design.
The design of the parking structure and the design of the building, the thought of, you know, how.
So my question is, for affordable housing, it doesn't have to look bad? That was a joke. That was.
But the answer is.
You know,
If
it's
you
only
get
done
Hensel
because
to design it.
it used to have to kind of look bad. It used to be intended to not be great.
I have a curiosity question, and not, I don't think it's critical to our decision making at all, but, what are your plans for handling those who might want to park in that garage when they're not supposed to, like, the railroad?
The top floor is open to the public.
The top floor is public parking, the
Is
fourth
public
floor
parking.
is going to be owned and managed by the village.
And that's a separate.
But there'll be, yeah, it has
It's
its own separate entrance, so the 3 levels that are for the residents, I'm sure will be controlled.
Okay,
Right.
just curious,
Yeah,
because you're gonna get a lot of those.
yeah.
Well, no, actually, the whole purpose, and I'm sorry to step, again, I put this. The top level is actually going to be almost level to Main Street. You can actually walk across.
Right, I saw the
Main Street.
bridge, so
Yeah.
it'll have the same rules as the park.
Well, no, sorry,
Yeah.
that's not correct. So
The
the
bridge
top-
is from the.
One of the levels of the actual building is
Building.
gonna be level with Main Street.
That's right.
The parking
Right,
garage is gonna be
parking.
level with Central Avenue, so you can.
Right.
You can walk out.
But actually, it's gonna be pretty far up. So
Yeah.
You're not gonna be.
And they're
Super.
overall making improvements. I mean, this looks beautiful. But the whole pedestrian, flow and the, you know, redoing the sidewalks, putting in accessible sidewalks. Fixing up the whole area for pedestrian.
I think in, particularly what I'm gathering from all this comment is the opportunity that people would say to use the parking.
Right.
And get on the next train because it won't work anymore.
Right.
Is there some sort of control
So,
where the parking is?
Yeah, it will be
Yeah, I mean-
controlled.
It'll be
Yeah.
they'll probably have gates and cards, and usual things that parking structures do that's private parking.
yeah, you know, the only thing I would say is, keep in mind that there's a lot of public parking in that area right now. And there was public parking along Central Avenue prior to the pandemic, people would park there and then. Post-pandemic, people are not really using Central Avenue to park anymore. So we hope that people do use this parking a lot more and it provides options for the future of maybe closing parking west of the, train tracks. You know, 20 or something.
And I'll just add that the parking will be controlled for the residential portion, and we also will have on-site management. We'll manage this building and we'll have on-site management and staff at the site.
Thanks, Jen.
I think, oh, sorry.
So I think on this, for all the parking issues that all relate to the garage and where it is and how it sits on the site, I think we're good on the first factor.
Good on that.
Okay, so 2, benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
I'm gonna say
And
no.
this goes to the shape of the site, and then it's three, it's
And how
about
many
3
spaces
on
they're
3
gonna need to
sides,
accommodate
yeah.
the
Not
residential
to mention that
use.
you have a brook going down the middle.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So it's a garage and it looks like a nice room.
I agree with Kyle.
Yeah, I think your site is so constrained in terms of where you can put things. You've got the hill running through the middle, so you gotta go to either side of that. You've got 3 street frontages, you've got a narrow site, yeah.
Reverse, you still have the same issue. but
Some
on
of
the
the
other-
coolest
But on
projects
the
come
side.
off constraints. This will be.
It takes a little bit more creativity. 3 is whether the requested area variance is substantial, and clearly in numbers alone, they are substantial, but you have to look at it not just in terms of the numbers, but in the context of the impact.
Yes.
So yes, it's substantial, but I don't think there's some this is how we're, you know, the overall impact on this.
Specifically for 2 reasons, because it was required in the RFP and this is the only certain spot to do it. 2, it mirrors the footprint of the DPW building, so.
Well, and the other thing was, as Rich, had said earlier, was the fact that he's doing the numbers based on the fact that only the lot after the subdivision in Weston actually included the village's property that they.
Some of those would be
Those numbers would be less.
Those numbers will be way.
Right, well, not
Not the
most
corner.
of these, but some of them. So the only one on the parking, the one that wouldn't is the 30% parking along water.
Yeah.
Yeah, central,
Central.
right, because it would, you'd have.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood district. Again, the planning board has already made a declaration of environmental impact under secra.
So, yeah.
But also they're improving it, so.
And in addition, they're improving.
Yeah, the environmental condition, just like cleaning it up.
Just like cleaning it up.
Brownfield, you know.
Yeah,
That is-
okay. And the next is the alleged difficulty was self-created, which would be relevant, but not necessarily preclude the granting.
No, because the village asked for someone to develop on this exact space for this reason, so. it's-
And I also think it comes from the difficulty results from
We
the
just
shape of the lot, the hill in the middle, and the 3 street frontages.
The difficulty was there. The difficulty was there to begin with, the 3 acre.
Right.
The slope is the slope, the kill is the kill.
Yep,
Yes.
okay. So I think we're good then with the factors, on the parking variances. The other ones, do we want to, talk about the habitable?
I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, you wanna go through the habitable,
I feel very comfortable. with it.
So the habitable, I think we have to,
Before we go there, Are we able to vote on any of this tonight?
let's vote on it all together.
we'll
Let's,
vote on it all together, but we
Yeah.
go through the factors. We don't have to vote
Okay.
through them.
And,
Two records for the record, though.
yes.
The only question I have is anything with the fire department.
We're not-
That can that affect any of the issues we're.
No,
no.
I don't think that puts anything on the parking.
Nothing on the apartment.
Yeah, so the
Oh,
only thing,
it might if the building has.
Building had, something had to.
no, I don't think I don't think there's any circumstance when the building moves. The only circumstance that we're looking at right now is the change in the width of the bridge. And so that bridge won't impact, and Rich, jump in here, but I don't think there's any world where the size of that bridge would be impacting with the building, because they can't change the location of the canal. The canal is where the canal is. And so the building is the building. The bridge widening is a different issue, but won't impact the footprint of the building. Correct. Is that correct, Rich?
I mean, that's spot on. So just for the board's benefit, we did get the specifications for the fire department's aerial apparatus. We ran the turning maneuvers in the computers to run simulations and make sure that they did work. However, the fire department's done this on other projects, and just to be certain, because it is a tight space, we want to run a simulation in the field. And to Jaime's point, it's more about how we align the bridge, the size of the bridge, just to make sure that we give the fire department the clearances they're looking for based on an actual field run test.
With that being said, I think.
Okay, so now we're talking about the habitable floor area, and I'm not gonna try to run through the numbers. We're gonna take the numbers from Maxwell's plans that are very well laid out and show for the various unit types what the variances are for each. Because there's for 11 different, did I get that right? 11, I think 4 3s, 4 2s, and 3 1s, and they all have different numbers. So let's again go through the factors. An undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting the variance. Gonna have any,
It's not gonna have.
the size of the units will have no impact.
No effect.
Right. Two, benefits sought to be achieved by another feasible method other than an area variance, and I really think because of the conflict with HCR.
Agreed, just looking at the 112 square foot. To bring it up, we require 168 square feet
Yeah.
and 3 bedrooms. It's
Yeah,
impossible to reconcile them.
There's no room to move on this, so.
Yeah, it's the HCR conflict. Yeah.
And I guess the last point, so it's in the record, is the RFP had requested 125, but they go into 109,
Right.
already.
I don't know if the RFP,
Yeah.
I think that was the response. To give a little background, the way that the HCR programs work, there's a couple of different programs. There's a 90% tax credits, 40% tax credit program, and 40% tax credit programs are the ones that are sort of as of right, everybody gets them as long as you have a project. They require larger properties and larger projects, and so you need to get like up to 100 units. And so that's kind of why you see a lot of them coming out of this side. The 40% are more competitive. You get smaller projects. They're very difficult to get, and they're not something that would fit well with this kind of RFP process.
Got it. Thanks.
But the RFP did not ask for 100. In fact, I think they came down on the number because the board of trustees wanted less. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The requested area variance is substantial. Some of them are more substantial than others, some aren't.
But they're not
But again,
substantial in comparison to the HCR, which is almost where we have to base it, because this project can't exist without meeting those guidelines.
Yes.
Okay.
And the village bound them to those guidelines. by making this affordable housing.
4, proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Absolutely
Variance,
positive.
yeah.
Yes. It's a low bar.
And the difficulty with self-created, it's not self-created, it comes from the language in your code that conflicts with HCR requirements.
Here, here. I love that we're getting some of these out of the way.
Yes.
Before the-
I love that, Max.
Very good.
Mine is so
So then I think, the other one that we could, sorry, I was trying to mark things off here. The 25-foot buffer on each side of the water course. So even if that bridge changes, it's still 0.
And that's because they're building the walls that line with the creek because they have to build next to
Yeah.
it.
There's
Without-
nothing else. to
And,
do.
and the greenway extension and the stormwater improvements and all those things.
Oh, I don't know if they're digging deeper. I think it's.
No,
more about-
they're not, they can't. be.
Yeah, that's more about,
They're putting the
Definitely not allowed to-
filling basin in.
Everything
to
we're
the
doing,
side.
they're putting like dozens of those basins
On the side.
on the side and they're building walls, so it's not crumbling.
No, the safety of people coming up to the edge of the creek, that's on our fair as part of the sport.
I'm sorry. I said
The safety of people coming right up to the edge of the creek.
Like falling over the edge of them.
Yeah, so I don't, so yes, I mean, if they're on our property, then yes, it's our responsibility.
Right.
The creek, if you've been to the walkway now, I mean, there's railings.
It's
and
railing.
everything else, so, I mean, it has to be maintained, and so it's gonna continue to be that way until it reaches grade. I'm assuming, Rich, the plan right now is to get it to grade, and then at grade, that railing would not necessarily be there, there's sort of like a natural barrier of vegetation. Once it reaches grade, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We couldn't hear your nod, Rich. It doesn't shake enough.
so what else we got?
Okay.
Sorry, it's late.
Not that late.
Early, get out of here.
So let's talk about the, not providing a 25-foot buffer on each side of the water course. The variance is 20-foot required, 0 provided. I think we've just talked about some of the reasoning. Undesirable change, no, it actually is creating a benefit.
Right.
I mean, if you get to the site,
Anything is
it's already a disaster. So they're not only are they cleaning it up, but they're also sort of cleaning up the back area, which cuts, through the trash and debris. There's a lot of
You could build a house
street
out of it.
milling. Yeah.
And really, you look overall at the benefits here. A, it's obviously brownfield put up to the site, the improvements to the hill, the extension of the greenway.
Yeah.
The stormwater improvements. On top of that, the affordable house
Exactly.
and parking for the village. There's also a community room for the, there's other benefits to the village.
Correct.
Okay, benefits sought can be achieved by some other method feasible other than a variance. No, because we're trying to.
We're constrained by the fact.
The kill.
the stream is the stream.
And what we're trying to do to improve the kill.
Yeah,
Absolute very best of being done with what we can.
right.
Requested area variance is substantial.
Yes, but they can't help it, so that wouldn't.
Yeah. But it's substantial in a good way.
Yeah. Proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Actually, it's gonna have a positive. Yeah, it's gonna have a positive. And self-created, which is not determinative. It's really not.
Okay.
Okay, we're cruising.
Yeah.
I think we had asked this of your neighboring projects, but just for uniformity, so that it's not like, well, why did you ask us? Not, you guys are in communication with the Main Street, I think it's 65 Main Street. It's the one neighbor right.
So I can say this much, I know that I have been informed by the owner of 65 Main Street that he met with Bill Balter, the owner of
Right, we asked
Wal-
him in
Walter.
July.
Great.
I don't know if these individuals who are here today have been in conversation with Peter Turnoff, but I know that Bill Balter has been in conversation with Peter Turnoff. So
Excellent.
It works the benefits.
Okay, so that, really leaves just the impervious coverage.
And we will have that information for.
Yeah, the number on the variance might change. But I think, your analysis is gonna be very similar to what we've already done on the other factors.
Right, so it's just the number that we
It's just
need
the
to have,
number of it that may change.
clear.
Yes.
We can give the public a show with our variance test.
Right.
For
Speaking of the public, this is for Linda or perhaps for Jaime, do we have any special obligation here with regard to the fact that this is village
no.
property to do anything beyond normal public notification?
No,
but
and there's been so much public notification, and there has not been any public planning board meetings.
Yeah.
There was no public.
So to give you a little background, so the process started, I started here in 2020, I think it was, that summer, there started discussions about it. There was a 7-part public engagement process where they went over multiple different components and details.
It was
of it
online too.
before they even, did anything. Once they selected candidates, they went through this process, and then there was even more stops, there was more public hearings. So there's been more public hearings on this than any project probably there's ever been.
And I can actually give more information. I don't know if they remember, but I was on the village board when we first talked about redoing that DPW site, and I do believe that they gave us information way back in 2007 or 8.
Yes.
So, and very similar to what it is today. So this has been around for a long
And
time.
the reason why I asked is because we have the Main Street project that is up the hill. Also, is there another one that we're looking at down the road at Stoughton, behind Stoughton?
Which Main Street project?
65, and then there's a big project behind Stoughton that's, small, large buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riverwalk's like less than half the size of this project in terms of number of units.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it's on private property.
And
Right.
Oh, I thought it was bigger.
They, the only thing that they have in common is they both have significant public improvements. Part of those projects.
Okay,
Riverwalk's coming. You'll see them soon.
good, okay. I think you're thinking of the
the Snowden project, it was like including you following the firehouse and all of that. That
Yeah,
was
exactly right.
a bigger project.
That's a bigger project.
Okay.
We haven't heard another day.
So
We adjourn? Okay, so.
So, other than, it sounds to me like other than the fire department,
The fire
then
department.
there's nothing else that you
And
were
the
looking
impervious.
for.
And
Well, that relates to
that's
the
good.
impervious.
my questions were answered last time when they brought, or from last time when they
Okay.
gave the notice.
So at this time, may I entertain a motion to adjourn to
So.
our October meeting, adjourn both the public hearing and for the.
And you already adjourned the public hearing?
Oh,
You
yeah.
did it, you already adjourned the public hearing since the motion.
During this project.
Now I'm, okay, so.
Motion came from Bob.
May I have a second to adjourn? Second over. All those in favor of adjourning until our October meeting to get the information necessary to move forward with this project, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We look forward to seeing you again in October.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, members of the board.
Yeah.
Good night.
We got a lot done.
All right. And you want to adjourn the meeting now?
Our next meeting is in October.
Yes.
The adjourn.
No, you have no more items.
We have no more. everything.
No, that's it. We're done.
That's why we did this tonight.
Yeah. We have, I had free time to do it tonight. No, you're not off, because you have to adjourn the meeting.
We have to
Oh.
adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You are welcome. Aye. All those in favor, aye. Meeting adjourned. We look forward to seeing you again in October. We ask everyone to have a good night, and enjoy. And thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for
The holidays are coming up, be prepared.
coming.
Wow.
Wait, there's holidays? Really?
Well, I'm just saying, like, once Halloween month starts, then it's all downhill from there.